The Labour Party is a complete anomaly. It got in by accident, and it's exactly the wrong set of policies for a period when you need greater national identity, self-defence, mobilisation and real productivity, which is the opposite of what they're delivering. So they are an anomaly, and they are going to end up really, I don't think they'll make the end of their term.
You don't think they'll last 5 years?
They won't, because the bond markets will call time on them. Because the bond markets in the West are going to move down, and we're the weakest of the West. And they will be, just like Truss suffered, very interesting, complicated dynamic, because she didn't do it very cleverly, but basically because the Bank of England had allowed super leverage in the gilt market, coupled with what looked like a sterling crisis that wasn't, and it was a dollar crisis, they managed to orchestrate that her policies were unacceptable. They were actually, I would argue, the right policies, just poorly executed and announced, and the guerrilla forces of linearisation basically ambushed her, and Sunak was the result. So we flip-flopped around, we've tried to be lateral, we tried to adapt, and I'd even argue that Boris would have managed to adapt if it hadn't been for the pandemic, which I don't think was accidental, if my work is to be read. And so you could argue one of the greatest successes of the pandemic from the Chinese perspective was the one country that was about to adapt and be far more powerful in its foreign policy was Britain, and sabotaged by that process where adaptation didn't take place. And for those of you that think that's a strange concept, I'd point to 2 points of evidence. Our vaccine response was far quicker than Europe's, so we were more adaptive. And also, if it wasn't for Brexit, inverted commas, Boris, Ukraine wouldn't have survived the opening weeks of the conflict and would have succumbed, and we would have had Russia on our NATO borders, and we would have gone into the conflict zone far quicker, I would have argued. So that lateralisation showed itself in leadership. And the leadership has waned as linearisation has returned. But for a moment there was a bright spark.